I, I welcome on behalf of Ramanujan College and the Teaching Learning Center of Ramanujan College, I welcome all of you to this panel discussion, which is going to be on academic leadership. This is a part of the ongoing induction orientation program for participants across the country. And it is indeed my great privilege and an honor to introduce to you three very distinguished academics who are also leaders in the world of academics. I have with me Professor Andreas Altman, who is the managing director of the Management Center in Innsbruck, Austria. I have with me eminent academic from University of Delhi, Professor Anand Prakash. He is the head of the Department of Psychology in the University of Delhi. He's been the former dean of the international relations in our university. And I also have principal of Ramanujan College, Professor S.P. Agarwal, who has been leading this college for the last 11 years. And we are here to discuss this very important issue of academic leadership. So without taking any more time, let me briefly introduce Professor Anand. It's very difficult to introduce Professor Anand because he is such a luminary, such an eminent academic with a huge amount of expertise and experience behind him. His area of academic expertise is in social psychology, organizational behavior, psychology of human resources. He also works on the psychology of the margins, and of course, qualitative and quantitative research. Of the many PhDs that he has supervised, some of the interesting topics that he has worked on is leadership in education, well-being, the concept of well-being and success, meaning of work, value orientation. So this is his expertise, and we've in Ramanujan College we've had the opportunity and the good fortune of having Professor Anand come and speak to us on many occasions, and he has left an indelible mark on us, and we've been very inspired listening to him and his and the ideas that he has. Professor Anand has been an eminent academic, no doubt, but he's also been a kind of a support, a pillar of strength for the University of Delhi, for the number of important positions that he has held. He has been in the reorganization of the syllabuses of Delhi University, not only in his own department, but across the university. He has been a major part of research policies in our university. He is also an important member in other universities like Jawaharlal Nehru University and other universities in our country. So with this major and huge expertise and experience that Professor Anand has, I request him to begin today's discussion with his presentation on what he thinks is leadership and academics. Professor Anand.
Well, thank you, Dr. Malya, and thank you, Ramanujan College, who often take the risk of inviting me into variety of programs. And I always feel privileged and humbled by their great gesture and affection so profusely showered on me. And the agenda before us is to look into the issue of the academic leadership. And when I'm going to share some of my initial thoughts, and maybe as the discussion build on further, we may take it up to a relatively advanced level. But to begin with, the academic leadership that we are referring to, I assume that we are referring it to for the higher education. Uh, so I would be specifically addressing the context of higher education and the challenges before the academic leadership to revitalize and reinvigorate the higher education. And my point of reference and understanding would be the Indian organizations in particular, and some of the points and ideas that I am likely to share may also have implications for the higher education in general at a global context. So the education, the academic leadership in this context is of utmost importance, and particularly in the present times when there is a very different kind of idea of knowledge is moving ahead. There's a very different kind of expectation of the higher education, the expectation of the society and the expectation of stakeholders are changing at a very, very different level. So this is the third, this the stakeholders, including government, society, students, and parents, they are now having a very different kind of expectation and also the faculty. So keeping that expectations of the various stakeholders and the global context in which we have to position higher education, I see the challenges before the academic leadership in this our own country is related to having an ever-encompassing vision for higher education, and which has been by and large being shaped by the stakeholder and particularly by the government. So we will have to see that the leadership of the higher education has to visualize what kind of relationship that leadership visualize with the funding, the resource generation, because I feel for the higher education to flourish unquestionably and into the right direction, there has to be a commitment for the resources from the stakeholder and particularly by the government. So what kind of a relationship that the leadership visualize? Are this leadership going to visualize as the government, as a regulator, as a controller, as a guide, as a policy maker, or they only act as a resource provider, as a funder with certain kind of vision and certain kind of a target that the higher education has to meet in terms of fulfilling the expectation of the society. So this is the first very important. Within that context, what kind of a vision of leadership, institutional vision, that the leadership brings by involving all the stakeholders in creating a passionate emotion around that kind of vision, that's very important. And the twin objective with the higher education is being visualized. Now the third objective has also been added. The twin objective is that how this academic leadership engages in creation of a knowledge and dissemination of a knowledge. And beside the creation and dissemination, how it can shape the various practices into the marketplace. And marketplace, I'm not using in this constricted sense of the term of employability. Marketplace, market as a metaphor in which the society and the various other stakeholder becomes the receiver of the knowledge that is coming from the university. So this 3-point objective, the third one is added, I think, in the last decade. But the first one, that how do we engage, how do we make the various stakeholders, teaching, the faculty members, the students and other, in knowledge creation, what kind of a knowledge you are willing to create, and what is the true definition of a knowledge that will provide direction to the society. And third, by what kind of pedagogical devices, by what kind of mechanism you are disseminating that knowledge, by publishing, by communicating orally, or by engaging in virtual and different other kinds of a mode, and how far this knowledge is able to establish a healthy interface with the society. So this 3-point objective, or the 3-pronged strategy, has to be an integral part of the leadership visioning. Now, this is a very important to do that. The second very important part of the academic leadership has to be dealing with various kinds of regulatory mechanism by which building the world-class universities, the universities which are competitive, universities which are rooted into the the local traditions as well as aspiring to respond globally to the world order challenge. You know, that kind of perspective is very important as a second point that this academic leadership has to be done. When we normally do research, and particularly I'm a researcher into the organizational context, we often say that the two qualities are very important in a leader. One, the leader has to be good in the kind of a job he's doing. So the technical competence, whatever work that leader is doing, is very important. And second, that we also find very relevant into Indian context is the relational competence. Like the third point comes from this, that how to bring a team, how to bring together people with the diverse views, subscribing to different kind of ideological positions, having a very diverse perspective into that, and how they can be put into the work in a very complementary manner, held together by a superordinate vision. So that's the challenge. And I think most of the leadership in our own country often get huge challenges and difficulties in managing a diverse team, diverse workforce, because the different interests of the stakeholders take them, draw, pull them into different directions, and bringing them together, making them stay and focus is the very important challenge of the important. The fourth very important point for academic leadership, particularly in the Indian context, is that how do we deal with the regulatory mechanism without compromising with the vision and the mission of the higher education? So continuously negotiating with the regulatory mechanism, which often impinges upon the notion of autonomy, freedom, and other kind of things. And the excellent leadership, the academic leadership, has to negotiate between the regulatory demands of the regulatory mechanisms and the demands of generating the true knowledge and disseminating the true knowledge and creating a healthy interface with the society. So I expect a good leadership to help them deal with this kind of a thing. And finally, I can go on giving the list of it, but finally, and that's where I would like to give viewpoint and then start with this. Third, the university as an institution must also have its accountability parameters in a place. So if I am disseminating knowledge, I am using the resources of the society, or I don't want to use the word taxpayer because that has acquired another kind of political overtones, but how university or higher education as an institution can become accountabilities can be established in a transparent manner into the system. And if the leadership is able to whip, leadership is able to walk the talk and create a kind of accountable mechanism by the society, anybody can understand that why a particular kind of a thing is done, rather than leaving it to the multitude of interpretations by various stakeholders. So I think to begin with, these are the 4-5 points to begin with in an academic leadership I expect to visualize by having a very clear vision and mission, bringing different stakeholders together, making a commitment for certain amount of the resource and the other things, bringing the diverse team into the perspective and creating a mechanism of self-accountability in a very transparent way. If that can be done, no, I know that I am idealizing, but our job also has to idealize, because you always feel that in absence of an ideal perspective, practice perspective had a very limited view. So we must first establish what kind of ideal we wish to achieve, and then maybe we can think of developing pathways, developing a map, developing a kind of routes by which we can reach those destinations. Nirmalya, I think that's the opening remarks I would like to give about the academic leadership, and I return it back to you.
Thank you so much, Professor Anand. That sets the ball rolling for I think a very interesting discussion. You mapped out the macro issues of what the leadership has to do in an institutional situation, where the institution as well as the larger world, including the regulatory mechanisms that operate on the institution, how the leadership has to negotiate all that. So we begin with this large macro level understanding of leadership and the institution. I would now request Professor Andreas Altman, who is the Managing Director, the founding managing director of the Management Center at Innsbruck. He's with us. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us, and we welcome you. And he is academic whose expertise lies in business administration and economics. He has a research work on public finance from the University of Innsbruck. And he is, of course, associated with many supervisory boards and associations, including the European Accreditation Council of AACSB. Then he's in the advisory board, International Advisory Board of the Antwerp Management School. He has also been awarded with the Knight's Cross for Science and Arts by the Republic of Austria. A very eminent academic and inspirational leader of his own institute. I must also say at this point that Ramanujan College has a memorandum of understanding with the Management Center Innsbruck for an exchange program with the students and teachers of both the institutions. And also we like collaborative work on development, on designing and development of curriculum, as well as of sharing research and other knowledge-based work that both these institutions can do together. So Professor Osman, I request you to make your observations about today's discussion on leadership and academics. Professor Altman.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, here at our partner university at Ramanujan College in New Delhi, I'm more than pleased and honored to be part of this panel. And I feel also humbled to be now sitting on this panel and try to contribute. Now, what have I been, perhaps to better understand my role before I go into the field of leadership? Now, what is it, what my role is, and then I try to explain how I try to interpret and understand this role. Now, the MCI, the Management Center Innsbruck, is a spin-off or a spin-out of the Public University of Innsbruck. The Public University of Innsbruck was founded in 1669. It's a comprehensive research university, including medicine and all these fields, law and theology and all that, and business administration, economics, humanities, name it. Now, this is a public university with Nobel Prize winners, with lots of prestige and so on. And I received my PhD there and worked in the field of public finance. And then I was part of a task force of a team in my late 20s or early 30s, a task force of 2 or 3 years, that we said, now we need to innovate the university. The university was very conservative. The university was not really business related. The university was a very, very traditional, very, very good, distinguished university. But we thought, a couple of people around me, that it lacks of innovation. Then we said, let's try to reform the university from within and bring in innovation. And then we said, okay, then we soon realized that we would fail because legislatory framework, regulation, but also culture of the people wasn't ready for innovation. Then we said, okay, then let's create something new under the umbrella of the university. And we were able to bring together the university, the boards and the rectors and also the Chamber of Commerce and the Association of Industries and the City of Innsbruck and the region and so on, to form a consortium to give birth to this new institution, and all this, and this consortium is still the owner of the MCI, including the public university. Now, to then better understand how I try to interpret and live leadership. The metaphor which was used, what is the picture if you create, if you are in your early 30s, I was 31 to become the head of an academic institution like the MCI. So I hope you all out there are impressed. But to be frank, it doesn't, not even my children are impressed by that, because becoming the head of nothing. And then we started, and we thought, okay, if we did the same as the traditional, as our alma mater is the university, it wouldn't make sense. Let's become the speedboat of the university. So there's a flagship in the speedboat, and try to sail in the same fleet, but focus on different functions. And our function is innovation. Our function is business relations. Our principle is, our understanding is international outreach, and so on. Okay, and now this little MCI has more than 3,000 students. We have 300 partner universities. Students come from all over the world, applicants, faculty, students, we send them abroad, and so on. And we actually have been receiving better rankings and better feedback from our students and from the business world and from all the others out there, also ranking and accreditation institutions as our alma mater, which somehow may even create some kind of sensitivity or tensions. And what is the principle behind leadership as I try to understand it? First of all, leadership means being humble. Being humble. The second understanding of leadership, which I have, I don't think this is a principle in any, relevant for any institution, but in our context, I think it is. Being humble and try to serve all the others. You may like it or use the term or not, but I see myself as somehow as the servant of all the others, to encourage them, to give them opportunities, to perhaps guide them, to to open their eyes, to create visions, and then support them to run, support them in their mission. But at least at the beginning, my mission was to explain my vision and the picture I want to create together with them, to bring them into my boat. Now, I even asked them, now the vision and the picture should not be coming from myself. You, my department heads, our faculty, our team, you should be the ones bringing up innovation, creating new pictures. And what does it take? What do you need from me? Very often it's just sometimes, or quite a while, obviously resources are involved. But that's typically not always the point. Very often it only needs that I think that complies with our long-term strategy. That I think, yes, this is what creates my, what deserves my or the general support. And how can, and my question is, how could I try to open doors for you to support you? Okay. And through that, I think we have been creating a very nice culture, and we call it the entrepreneurial school, because we have a very entrepreneurial culture. And every day I come into my office, I'm happy to see smiling faces, people saying, and also students saying, hopefully saying, now, Andreas, when I woke up in the morning, I was looking forward to go to the MCI, because this is the place where ideas and the future can be created. So this is my concept of leadership, and especially academic leadership. I'm sure if you are in a situation where, whatever, if you are in a military service, if you are in the fighting unit, obviously it demands a different type of leadership, because their hierarchy, their strict order, their whatever may be relevant. But in our context, and this is why I tried to explain the context, leadership, I think, works quite well like I've been trying to describe it. And then I would like to give the word back after my initial statement.
Thank you, Professor Altman. That's an interesting way of looking at what a leader does in an institution, and what are his ways of looking at his students, and how he has to be an inspiring leader so that future can be created in the institution. I would now bring in my principal, Professor S.P. Agarwal, to speak on leadership. But before he does that, it is also my privilege to say a few words about him. Since 2009, he has been an inspiring leader to Ramanujan College, and has been the bold person who has been able to bring the college to A-grade status in Indian academics. His expertise lies in international management and international finance management. He has been an research associate at the University of Texas, and he has done his MBA from the University of Houston. As principal of Ramanujan College, which is an A-grade NAC, National Accreditation and Assessment Council A-grade college, he has been an important member of the peer teams, which is called the NAC peer teams, and he has gone all over the country assessing colleges and giving them grades. So he has a huge experience of looking at different colleges across the country and how they function. He has also been awarded, much to the pride of our college, as one of the 50 most influential principals in education of India by the World Federation of Academic Cooperation World Education Congress in July 2019. So Professor Agarwal, we'd like you to give us a first-hand idea about what you think leadership and in academics is all about. Professor Agarwal.
Thank you, Samantha, for introducing and saying so good words about me. My co-panelist, Professor Andreas, our own Professor Anand Prakash, Dr. Lata, my colleagues, and all the participants who are joining us from all over the country. First of all, welcome, and on behalf of Ramanujan College, and as my panelists, started a lively discussion, Professor Anand Prakash gave a very good view, macro view of leaders in the universities. Professor Andreas specifically gave you his first-hand experience, how he brought up MCI and University of Innsbruck. And though I'm not an expert in that area, but being a leader of this institution for the last 12 years, I will also share with you my, whatever experience I have gained over the period with all of you. Friends, the story is similar to what Professor Andreas explained about Innsbruck. My institution was also a very small, known as Deshbandhu Evening earlier, and very conservative, hardly any work, except teaching and giving degrees. And when I joined it in 2008, then we thought of something new, and we created a new institution in 2012. And from there, the journey started. So briefly, what I feel about the administration, I would put before you. Friends, basically academic administrator or college governance is, little different maybe from university or a larger institution, but, more or less the same things. Well, in academic and especially in public funded institutions like in Delhi University or maybe in some state universities, Delhi University structure is little different, much more open, independent, lot of voice of the stakeholders is there. It may not be in other institutions, but since my experience is basically in a Delhi University setup, so I would be sharing with you more of that. Friends, I would like to go a little back, how leaders are being, leaders learn or how leaders are being created. See, it all depends upon your background also, very, very important. See, I have been educated in a very small village. Then I went to a higher school in a small city, like which is now a very big city, Gurugram. Then I went to Delhi University. And from there onwards, I went to United States in 2 universities. And, when you go abroad and study there, and then during summer, like Professor Andrea said, we used to be trained in private sector companies, maybe in the form of training. And then once you come back and join a institution, then see, the realization comes that whatever experience you get from all this is really very, very important. So first thing I would like to say to all academics that they should go beyond their institution and discuss, learn, or attain something new for learning everyday new things about leadership or about anything, because leadership is one, but there are so many things, under leadership. Now, under academic leadership, basically, as my 2 panelists said, that the main role is, teaching, learning, research and innovation. Then also, administration, part of administration, managing the faculty and the staff, non-teaching staff. And then, the raising of resources, finance, and then distribution, salaries and benefits also. That is part, accounting, because you have to get done the financial statements and then audit also. That is also part of responsibility of any of the head of institution, whether it's a vice chancellor or a principal. So these are basically, 3-4 things which a academic head. But there is, as Professor Andrea said, there is a huge difference between an administrative head, like in services or in police services or in military, where there is a hierarchy, there is an order, and you order it and things are done. Here, it is completely very, very participative. Faculty is very empowered, highly empowered, and they should be empowered. And you are only there, as first among equals and to manage day-to-day affairs. Now, how to manage and how to get the work done, how to get the new ideas, how to, get the innovation done, that is the job of the leader. So what we did in this, institution, briefly, I would share with you. See, basically a leader, especially his mindset should be very, very open. What I said, I will explain further, but mindset should be very, very open. He should have a vision, clear vision, a plan in mind that this is my 5-year plan, this is my 10-year plan, this is my 25-year plan. If he is able to execute, otherwise it does not matter. Then he should, dream right. I mean, he should not dream big that, okay, I will, change everything within a minute or within a year. No, it is not possible. Like, let me give you an example. When I started from Deshbandhu Evening College, so everything was in disarray. Everything was not there in place. Now, when you start from such a place, how to start? So what I thought, first, we discussed with the stakeholders what needs to be done to revamp this institution. So I gave certain ideas, faculty gave certain ideas, and then I thought, let us start working rather than, too much involved in day-to-day thing, let us start working, give them the conducive atmosphere to work. That is, cleaned spaces, cleaned toilets, proper classrooms, everything proper, so that they feel motivated to work. So we started with that in very first year. We did this very least interaction with the people, but then they started speaking about that, yes, institution is doing, leadership is doing something, and then involving them in day-to-day affairs. That is also very, very important. And then when we talk of teaching, learning, and research, of course, you have to supervise also. Let us say you take, your institution opens at X time, you come 1 hour before that. And then you take a round of the institution. Take a round. I'm not talking about, just to see that whether teacher has gone to the class or not. That is not important. Take a round, talk to the stakeholders, talk to the students, talk to everybody who is there in the institution. That makes them feel good and comfortable. And also, they feel accountable that, okay, the leader can visit anytime. So that gives a different kind of feeling. So institution in itself start coming up. Now, another important thing, with which I gave an example to you. Similarly, the situation is very, very simple. Once you make a plan, once you have a vision, once you give new ideas. Now, one thing is that you give a new idea and there is no takers for that. So as Professor Andreas said, that we as a leader, you need to encourage the ideas of your faculty, ideas of your staff, ideas of other people. So just talk to them, and get ideas. And out of those ideas, if it matches with the institutional, framework, if it matches with the, with the objective, long-term strategy, long-term plan, then you must start pursuing it. And sometimes, we have seen that. Suppose there is an idea coming from a faculty. I say, okay, you go ahead, you pursue the idea. Suppose there is a funding requirement. All right, fine. Funding is also done. That idea might fail. It doesn't matter. But 99% of the time, the idea will be good and it will come up further. So that people are encouraged that, the leadership have a trust in them. Another important thing happens is during these things, that suppose one faculty starts this, 2 start this, 3 starts this, then everybody start thinking that I have nothing to do. And then they come up to the leadership that, okay, sir, we also want to do work in that area. My simple answer is, you should have your own idea. Let us not work in those areas where somebody already is working. Let them be independent. You do your own idea. You come up with the idea. We will fund it. We will promote it. We will do everything in that direction. So that is how you keep on innovating and getting ideas and putting the people to work. So that is what, we have done in this institution. Then empowering them. See, we have to share, like both the gentlemen said, we have to share the powers. We have to share the, empower them to do certain things. Only thing is, you keep a watch on the situation, but empower them to take certain decisions. Unless until you do that, you cannot run democratic institutions. You cannot run democratic educational institutions. So that is very, very important. So your mind should be open, that don't keep everything into your pocket. Just share with the people, just talk to them, and just empower them to do the work. Otherwise, if you do not trust them, things cannot be worked out. Then another important thing which we have observed in this institution, that, we need to focus on the training of the staff, whether it is a teaching staff, non-teaching staff. Training also helps. Initially, people will resist. I agree. There is no problem in that. Most of them will feel that we are already trained for the last 25 years, 30 years, 40 years. How do we need training? Yes, there is a resistance, but you keep on starting. At least few will come with you. So then, what happens is that with the help of this teaching learning center and other things, what we did is we started training our own faculty. And the training definitely changes the mindset to do something extraordinary. And that has helped us to bring innovation and research culture into the institution. Faculty started publishing in good journals. Then they started talking about the patents. They started doing something new, which I can share with you. There are several things which, during the course of this meeting, we will continue with those. Then another important aspect which I feel as a leader, see, in academic leadership, conflicts are bound to occur. Professor Anand Prakash is a psychologist. He can explain better. But this conflict management is the key to leadership. Now, what happens is that, let us say conflict arises. One way is that you train your guns and the other person is also having the gun, and you forget. And you start, what happens is that you don't start talking to each other, and then, things are apart. So let's not do that. Conflict management is very simple in the sense that you must be communicative. You must put forth your point. You may not agree, but let us remain on talkative terms. And managing those conflicts in a professional manner is extremely important, because you need to be stress-free. You need to, just don't think about it, because you need to respect the idea of the other person also. Very, very important, because he may have a point. Then think twice, thrice, and then professionally deal with these conflicts. Sometimes, the leader is also bound to fail. There are several decisions, ideas in which you fail. Yes, you can be a failure, but learn from them and learn from your experience, and then come up with a better solution in the future. See, in this institution, again, let me tell you that, as Professor Andreas said, that we have done everything in this institution, and in spite of being a Delhi University institution, we have implemented several of such things which are difficult to do in different colleges. Even in larger colleges or best rated colleges, number 1, number 2, we may not be the best rated. But, we are not worried about that, because it takes a while. We are a new institution to come to that level. Now, another important aspect, some certain things, the qualities Professor Andreas has already talked to you regarding kindness, compassion, forgiveness, patience, personal integrity, and conflict management. I have talked to you. Now, see, another important route which we have to take as an academic administrator. See, academic administrator is basically a facilitator to run the institution. Another important point I would like to make, like, our own Dr. Radhakrishnan said that education is a mission. Similarly, I would say that academic leadership is a mission. It is not a job in itself. It's a mission. You have to, target that and achieve with the mission. That is very, very important. And, as I said, the old ways of controlling the people, old ways of dealing with the people doesn't work in academic leadership in the new system. And you need to, go to the new leadership styles, which probably the experts can speak to you. And you need to be a transformational leader. That means you think out of the box and then, implement. But again, these things may be applicable to X institution, Y institution, but may not be applicable everywhere. It all depends upon situation to situation. So there is no specific rule of leadership which is applicable in a particular institution. Then see, communication skills of the leader should be of the top category. One should be very, very clear about the concept and the how you communicate with the people. Because sometimes people, becomes rough, tough. You need to keep a lot of patience, because you need to listen, talk out the things, and wait for the right moment to do the further talking. Because unless until you have a patience, it is not possible for you to get the things done. Well, again, another important thing which I feel is very, very important, that a leader must work in a team. Team man, he should be a perfect team man and encourage each one to be the team person. But I have noticed that few people cannot work in team, but doesn't mean they're inefficient. They have lot of potential, and give them the work and they will execute it. So as a leader, you need to understand that who the quality of the faculty, the attitude, the mind of the person, the mindset of the person, what kind it is. Accordingly, you assign the work. That is also very important for the leader to do. Now, again, the quality and excellence in education, you have to look into the all kind of gradings, like Dr. Samantha said, whether it is a NAC grading, NIRF rankings, India Today rankings. So leader has to think all the time that how to work on those rankings, because sometimes though the faculty is equally responsible, but as a leader you have to guide them how to handle such situations, so that in the image, your perception, or in the among the students or other stakeholders, your perception is high. Only then you can be successful. Similarly, like in order to give the international exposure to the students, that is also very important. So encourage them to participate in various programs outside the country, whether it is faculty, whether it is students. A lot of faculty we send for conferences outside the country. We have funded, other institutions have funded. We have also, done the incentive work in research, in innovation. So all these things matter. I tell you, these matter, and this can be a very good way of dealing with that. In case of internationalization, we have been signing MOUs, though Delhi University has several MOUs, but as a college also, like we have signed with MCI Innsbruck, and they have given us a special status. We can send our students for admission, and they will charge only 50% of the fee. Similarly, I can say that since 6,000 teachers are listening, these are very good institutions. Now you can train your students. They are free to apply over there. See, very few entrepreneurship schools in the world. The best is the Balsan in US. I think second is MCI. So one of our students has already been to Balsan last year, and we are planning that in next few years, several students will be in MCI, because entrepreneurship, innovation, and incubation is buzzword in this country. And these people, the highly trained people, are required back in our own. And similarly, we have signed an MOU with Western University, Australia. Now, in order to give better exposure to us, we have a full YouTube channel. Anybody can go in. This lecture is also being recorded. Everyone will be heard over there. Then another important thing, which I feel is also very important, that, always the leader must look for innovation in different areas, and training of the students in new technologies, not only students, also the faculty. So like if there is a scope for data analyst, if there is a scope for machine learning, if there is a scope of artificial intelligence, if there is a scope of Internet of Things, if there is a scope for blockchain technology, if there is a scope of robotics, then we must train accordingly, because only then they will be absorbed in industry, because we have to link our education with the employment. Otherwise, low employability is the basic problem of our institutions in this country. So innovation is important, creativity is important. Again, I'm saying that the various schemes which we brought in this college, we have been the first timers. See, like one scheme we brought, Deen Dayal Upadhyay Kaushal Kendra. Now this is skill-oriented courses. Ministry came with the idea for the first time in the country, and we were the first one to initiate. Our faculty, not I mean, faculty said, okay, sir, let's do this. All right, fine. I presented the idea, they gave it to us. So that's how you become a first mover in any of these things. Similarly, this training program like Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Mission for Teachers and Teaching, we were the first one to apply. Initially, we were not knowing how to do that. But some people came forward and trained us, and that's how we presented the proposal and we got it. So once you are a first mover, and I never thought, because we were a small institution, we were a small faculty institution, I never thought who will do it. Because sometimes leaders feel, why should I do? Who will do this thing? Well, no, we got the things first and then we thought how to do it. And we have been very successful in doing this. Similarly, learning to connect with the people. See, whether it is a domestic people, whether it is international people, whether it is your students, whether your staff, you need to learn how to connect with them. See, again, very simple theory that keep on talking to the people, whether on phone, whether on in the corridor, or whether in the in your office. Always keep on thinking, talking, and you will see a lot of new ideas come, so that you can further innovate and solve the problems. So, not taking too much of the time. Two more things I would like to add here. See, basically, our main father of the nation, Gandhiji's vision, about the value of enlightenment, value of enlightenment. He said about three things: care, compassion, and concern. I believe these should be also the qualities of an academic leader: the care, compassion, and the concern. And see, this world is just like a nest. Where you can say we call it, for birds, they make a nest. And this world is also a nest, and we are part of it. And you see, when bird prepare their own nest, and they feed their newborns themselves. Similarly, we need to learn to do our work with our hands. Very, very important, because help yourself. Don't depend upon others to do. Like I, being a leader, I have observed in my staff room, teachers, as soon as they come from the home, they will order some PN. Okay, bring water for me, bring tea for me. Well, not done. You keep water bottle with you. There are several things which I do in my office. Though of course we take help, but doesn't mean that it is our right. So we have to be very careful in doing this. So with this, let us, I'll stop my conversation here. When the questions will come, I will speak further. Over to Dr. Samantha.
Thank you, Professor Agarwal. As all of you have been speaking, our participants who have been watching this on YouTube have been sending us all kinds of questions and comments. And many participants have appreciated the idea of the leader being humble, which Professor Altman had said that it was important that the leader be humble, which brings me to the point that is it that we think of leadership as something which is not necessarily humble. Somebody who is, in that sense, is there a gap between the leader, the academic leader, and the academic teacher? Very often, as a teacher, I feel that there is a gap between the teacher who thinks that the job of the administrator is to run the college or the institution, and my job is to teach. So I have there is a gap there. So this has to be addressed. How does the leader of an academic institution spot leadership qualities in a teacher who is not necessarily involved in administration? So how is this gap to be bridged? I will, sir, quickly read through some of these questions, and then we can take them. For example, with changing circumstances, how easy it is for the leader to switch to new ideas and innovation? Professor Anand, maybe you'd like to look into this. There's one more for Professor Anand. How important is trust in academic leadership? Which type of leadership to follow, transformational or transactional? Um, uh, there is also questions about, does the quality of leadership change from a private institution to a government-run institution? Do these institutions need different kind of what is the relationship between inspiration and innovation thinking? So, sir, let us begin with some responses from Professor Anand about these ideas that we get about trust, humility, cooperativeness, a spirit of belongingness, which the leader should have, and the kind of expectations that that we have from the leader about running, about a day-to-day running and of evolving an institution. Professor Anand, your views.
Thank you, Dr. Samanta, for giving me another opportunity to speak. And I have been listening to these two co-panelists and a number of issues raised. And being an academic and research and having traveled to almost fourth institution where I'm doing my current job, right from University of Allahabad to Banaras Hindu University to, starting career in a college and coming across and doing various other kinds of things. I could see that the conversation taking place and the questions posed by you can be classified into two factors which are important in leader and factors which are important in the institutional context of leadership. So I'll put it into two ways and then I'll come back to the question. Here I'm reminded of a quote from the Harvard president in 2013 when he was traveling to Asian University, and he said that, look here, knowledge is going to be the currency of the 21st century. It's a very famous statement, and where all faculty have to engage in high quality research, ensure student engagement, and as much of blending of digitization plus the place teaching. These are the three very important things that he talked about. And my role as a Dean International Relations of Delhi University has taken me to a variety of situations where I've interacted with others and institutions. I have got a chance to look at these institutions and others. So I'm just setting the context before I respond to your questions. And some of the qualities which Dr. Agrawal has raised, as you visualizes, are necessary qualities in a leader in academic kind of a setting. But let me set the context. I see that in order to gain the relevance, two kinds of models are working in higher education in academic leadership. One model which I call or has been labeled as the new liberal model of higher education, and second was the socio-democratic model of the higher education. Now, it is the call which each one of us who is working in a particular educational setup to take which of the models is in complete synchronization with the local and the national realities in which we are operating and doing our job. And these two models, the neoliberal model is like, creating a reputational differentiation using ranking as on the basis of free market mechanism. So you say that let's the excellence in a small number of research initiative, create those capabilities and then compete globally. And there are examples in China and Japan and Korea. That's what they are doing it. The another one is a social democratic model, which aims to build a system of horizontally differentiating, right, high performing, globally focused institutions and student experiences engaged within that. So now, most of the higher education model and the current leadership can be divided into this. And it is within this context, I don't know which one of the ideals can be achieved if the qualities of humility or the humble leadership or the servant leadership is being practiced. The second one, the compliance with the strategy and building a culture of innovations and creativity. The 4 points which think Dr. Andrea has talked about, And some of the points which Dr. Agarwal raised, raising to the now the what is the model of governance we bring? And I put it everything in the model of governance to in an academic leadership. Should it be based on humanitarian consideration of trust, and how much of a trust is to practice and how critical it is to build trust, uh, or how much of democratization you are going to permit, because democratization has also been seen as, having its own set of difficulties and challenges. If you practices too much the secular and the evidence-based knowledge that everybody is aiming to create, then what happens to the idea of imaginations and creativity for which the evidences are yet to be mustered? Trust, empowerment, training of staff, conflict management, communication, leadership, team building, and creativity, all these qualities are going to help you achieve what? Going to give you access to the responding to the challenges of the market, or going to create an institutional mechanism which will be long lasting, which will have a system to sustain the ups and downs of the, and because both models have their own track of own record of the success. Now within this context, I come to the question that how in the changing circumstances, right, the way it is things are happening, which one of the leadership and how far trust is important, and whether the leadership has to be transformative and transactional. Look here, making recommendation for the success of any kind of a leadership is difficult and should be avoided. That's what I feel. It's the totality of the context, right? That's very important. But all leadership, right, begins with the transactional perspective. We start transacting because we have to achieve certain kind of practical goals. But the manner in which the processes are infused into this entire transactions, it could have a transformative experience even within that. So I would say that the transformative and the transactional, like there are certain things which need to be conducted as a business. Let me put it in a simpler way. Conducted as a purpose of the business, but there are many things that cannot be conducted as a business. It has to be conducted as an academic processes. Like when you are designing, but there are certain administrative and governance issue that must be complied. Like if you have to comply with certain regulatory strategies, as Dr. Andreas was also talking about, that there has to be conformity with certain kind of regulatory guidelines. And you cannot challenge that particular at that point of a time, because you have to comply, and compliance means you have to meet the guidelines, you have to follow the rules and regulations. Yes, but within that, the space available to us for a free play, for practicing our academic autonomy, for bringing in the element of creativity and other kinds of things, that is where I think the role of, so whatever little space is available for our free play, the autonomy, the point of the autonomy, the free play which is available to it, because we are still, I see the institutions are also caught up, right, in the notion of the autonomy at one axis, right? And at the same time, security at the another, security which is coming from being under the regulation and the funding of the government, right? Or even those who are becoming private, they are also aiming to get certain kind of funding from that. The security is the one axis on which most of the institutions are fighting. The security they tend to achieve into creating innovations, into the building products, student engagement, right? Or going for making the trendy online kind of an education. And the another one is our autonomy of that. Now, the good academic leadership will always negotiate in a very healthy, in a very efficient way of striking out a balance between the security and the autonomy. If we are making compromise and any one of the autonomy is compromised, then I think we are going to be trouble in terms of practicing innovations, because many of the innovations, many of the outcomes of certain kind of research can also be disruptive to the ongoing status quo practices. And it can also be seen as kind of a threat to do that. So would you allow, right, off the track kind of innovation to do that is the one. And second, how do you ensure the continuity of your own existence in terms of ensuring security? So I see that all those qualities, all those process of communication, team building, every kind of a thing is very necessary for achieving all this, for reaching where, for what kind of a destination, and the eyes on the destination. So are we going to create that we have to remain subservient to the market? I mean, that's the one part leadership quality that we are aiming to do that. So let market throw us the challenges that you need this kind of employees, you need this kind of a skill set, you need that kind of a thing. This is the job of the academic institutions. This is the one kind of a thinking, and large part of the discourses are centering around that. And the second point is that no, we have to comply with certain kind of market challenges and others, but at the same time, we also have to give new goals to the market that look here, these are the kinds of things we are producing, and why can't you change in your own self in order to accommodate the products which are getting manufactured? So a symbiotic relationship between the society and the academic institutions, and that symbiotic relationship has to visualize in leader. And if the leader has that kind of a vision, then I think it will gradually percolate down, and the little small strategies of communication, building trust, taking it a team building kind of exercise, creating communication, right, autonomy and other kind of things can be practiced. So for me, it's very important that we decide where do we want to go at. Where, and is this a destination good and attractive enough? Do we want to compete globally? That's very, very important. Or should we remain relevant first at the national and the local cultural level, and then only we will have possibility of mustering enough energy and leverage to compete globally. So that destination, once it is cleared, then I think in between the process can be worked out, rather than making attainment of this process as the outcome, as the result. I think that that kind of a balance between the autonomy and the security for an institutional leadership is very important for the institutions to continue. Dr. Samantha?
Thank you, Professor Anand. There are some questions for Professor Andres. This is one is, which type of leadership quality is essential for a young faculty? That's one question. I think it emerges from the point that I was making, that many teachers feel that, you know, if you're an academic, then you cannot be an administrator. Is there an anathema between a good academic? All the speakers today are all good academics who have all become good administrators. But there is a popular perception that if you are a good academic, then you cannot be a good administrator. So what are the qualities that you look for in young faculty in terms of leadership? The other question that is there is, how is academic leadership different from administrative leadership? Are they two different things? And what is the third question is, how do you encourage others? How do you encourage your faculty? So, Professor Andres, if you'd like to take these issues and make your comments.
All right, thanks for these many questions and quite comprehensive questions. I try to do my best to answer them as briefly and precisely as I can. Now, what is the credentials? What is it? What is demanded and important from an academic leader? I think it is that the first prerequisite is that you must like what you are doing. If you do not like what you are doing, it would be written at your forehead. Would be standing, you would have the stigma that you are not authentic. You need to like what you are doing. You need to even be convinced what you are doing. Then it makes it much easier to create pictures, to create visions, and to embed your students and the young generation into your visions, into these pictures, into the philosophy, whatever. That's one thing. And the other thing is that if you really like what you're doing, you will never work. You only pursue your hobby. but you will never work because you do what you like doing the most. So I think this is something else which makes it easier looking forward to going to your lecture room, to whatever, to teach online. You need to like what you are doing. You need to be convinced. Then another thing is that you need to encourage the young generation. And very, very often, even if I see myself standing in front of the young generation of young students, very often by creating these pictures, what we have been doing, one needs to be careful to not create or leave the impression, okay, this person is a genius, he is so great, and I can never, as a student, as a youngster, I can never be there because this is so upfront, so much, so high above myself. I could never do that. No, be humble and give them one example, and it comes from a joke. And there's two people, two managers hiking, wandering in the desert. One is from India, and the other one is, let's say, any other country. It may take Russia, it may take Japan, United States, China, name it. So there's two managers wandering in the desert, and then suddenly they see a lion approaching on the horizon. And the lion is coming closer quite rapidly. And it turns out that the lion is huge. So the two turn around, see nothing no place to hide, to get shelter, no tree to climb on, no whatever cave to hide, nothing. So they turn pale and they say, now we are lost. Now the Indian manager takes down his backpack, takes out his sports and running shoes and puts them on. Now the other one says, come on, what are you doing? Do you really think you will be faster than the lion? And the answer is, not faster than the lion, faster than you. And I think many people perceive this joke as very, very serious and cruel. And I think actually it's a great relief. Why? Because so many of the young generation of the students, they think, very often of them think they need to be faster than the lion. They need to be so genius. They need to be so whatever creative. They need to be, no, you only need to be a bit faster, quicker, more courageous, innovative, name it. Just a bit better than the others. And you do not have to be faster than a lion. Just be always work a little harder, be a bit more whatever, show a bit more courage and so on. Then you will always succeed. Do what you like. That's the first thing. And don't worry about needing to be faster than the lion. Just work harder, be more whatever, courageous and so on, more innovative than the average and than most of the others. You very often do not even have to be at the very upfront. Okay, and that creates and frees energies and motivation, because very often they say, okay, we cannot really reach, we cannot get there anyhow. Why invest? Why work hard and so on? No, it's quite easy. See, when I started at the age of 31 to build up an academic institution, it was not easy for me either. You have a large alma mater next to you, and you first alone, and then with a team of 5, and then with a team of 50, and then perhaps with a team of 500. you very often, I was somehow frightened or at least concerned. Can I really make a difference? Can I be faster than the Lions? I mean, there's the Lion, this huge institution of a university. How could you dare to even exist to do something better or whatever? No, it's actually quite easy. You do not have to be faster than the Lion. And for instance, we've been starting to introduce a distinguished guest lecture series, including, for instance, we had the president of the European Commission, Jean-Claude Juncker, on campus, and his predecessor, Romano Prodi, and ministers and commissioners and chief executives, and even Edward Snowden, and name it. And very often I'm asked by these even global institutions, and especially by my students when I stand in front of the lecture room. Now, Andreas, how in the world were you able to convince this person to be to give a distinguished guest lecture? And by the way, we do not pay a single cent or rupee honorarium. It's just give them the opportunity. How in the world can you achieve that? You know what my answer is? Quite simple. By inviting them. Because 99% of the people think, why should I try? There would not be any chance anyhow. And as 99% do not even dare or try, your chance, your likelihood is quite big. And we have been very successful. It is just be a bit more, try a bit more than the others, and then you will have the opportunity. That doesn't mean that we receive automatically a yes, but very often, for instance, to give you the example of Romano Prodi, he was saying, yes, actually, I feel so privileged and honored that you've been inviting me, but please understand, my calendar is so full for this year and perhaps also for the next year. So actually, they're too polite to say no. Okay, no problem, Mr. Prodi. We would be so glad if you came to us to visit us the year afterwards. And I mark it down in my calendar, and it has kept me 5 years in a row until I got the fish at my when you see the metaphor of a fisherman. Anyhow, do what you like. Don't think it is impossible. You only need, and so on. And then I think be persistent in your mission. And be persistent means, for instance, by this little example of Romano Prodi or so. Do not discourage yourself by whatever failures. I've been making so many failures every day. But be persistent in what you believe in. Be persistent in your goals, in your mission. And actually, this is more or less what I think is the most important issues. Now there is a question, the difference between being an academic and administrator with respect to leadership principles. I think there is not much of a difference in the leadership principles. There may be a difference in the target group, in the job, in the mission, but the principles, like what you're doing, try to do it as good as possible and even better than the others. Don't be afraid of the huge challenge, of the large challenge. No, be persistent. And actually, this is I don't think this is much of a difference from an academic leader. As a principle, the way to live, the way to express it, the target group, okay. And the job may be different, but the principles are, from my point, the same.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Very well answered your things, and the main point being that that when we do something that we like doing, it's not really work because we want to do that, and that probably brings out the best in us, both as an academic as well as a leader. Professor Agarwal, we have some questions for you. Our participants, of course, think you to be the representative principal administrator here. So they have certain questions which are directly addressed to you as a principal of an institution. One of the questions is, how do you as an academic leader, or how does an academic leader handle social differences? That's one thing. How do you, in the same position, handle or look at diversity within an institution of different people? Connected with that would be, is it difficult for women? Are there different and more challenges for a woman academic to be a leader within the academics? And finally, I think the question is that how does an academic leader handle political interference? And I think a bit of it that was mentioned by Professor Anand also. And along with that political interference, there is also a question about how do you handle politics within your institution, which is. So these are, I think, some of they're very specifically our participants have said SP sir. So I'm asking the questions to SP sir. Yeah.
Thank you, Samantha. Very valid questions asked by the participants. First of all, let me make a general observation. Professor Ananda Prakash and Professor Andreas has put up several things during question hour. Professor Andreas is very valid. I mean, he has said very, very validly that basically, if you like your work, if if you can encourage the people, if you can, really motivate the people, things are much easier. On the other hand, one has to be in any institution, one has to be a, like Professor Anand Prakash said, either you follow what others are doing or you want to be a leader among the things. We have always tried in this institution, we should, go faster than any other one. So that also, reflected by Professor Andreas, that the story of lion. And one thing I would like to comment before I coming to that question, that, good academician, good researcher can be a good administrator. Well, friend, let me tell you, I have a experience otherwise. It is very, very rare that a researcher, good teacher becomes good administrator. Very rare. I mean, you can find very few, especially in our country and also in other. I have seen the institutions all over the world. I have seen in US deans changing every 6 months, and I have seen the dean is working for last 20 years in the same. So it all depends. And when Andrea says that it is no different, well, faculty, in an academic institution, yes, there is some difference than the general admission, because there is a different kind of hierarchy here. Faculty matters a lot. Faculty has a lot of say in any academic institution. So what I'm trying to say here is that if you want to manage institutions better, he has to be a good administrator. He may not be a very good researcher. He may not be a very good teacher. But if you want to progress, he needs to be a good administrator. Because research and teaching will be done by the faculty. Definitely in an academic institution, there will be researchers, there will be good teachers that you can encourage, innovate, like we have done in this institution. I myself is not a good researcher or a very good teacher. So, but we have encouraged the people, and the example is before you, that 40% of our teachers are so good that they can lecture anywhere in the world. So this is what, encouragement does it. give them the opportunity to work, does it. So this is first comment. Now, how do I manage the social differences? Well, friend, not difficult in the sense that you have to get into that. Let us say I said my background is such, I'm from a very small village and then moved to different areas. I have seen everything. I have seen the caste differences, social differences, everything I have seen. And if you are down to the earth, definitely you're bound to understand the problems of each and every individual. It does not matter. You need to understand, we have faculty here from a very different background than, the urban background. Yes, you have to deal with them differently. You need to understand each and every one very clearly. So it is not difficult if you try to understand. But if you don't want to understand and you want to, you want to impose yourself, it is not going to work. That is not going. So, and also very, very important here point is that some of your faculty will try to influence, which is, again, as a leader, you need to avoid. You need to work independently in these directions. Diversity, very important, said, there are always groups in this. Professor Anand Prakash can highlight better. But, at least I know whatever experience I have in last 12 years, that at least we have managed the diversity very well in this institution, whether it is students, whether it is faculty, whether it is non-teaching staff. Problems occur. There are problems. Sometimes, administrator feels that you have not done anything, but still there are problems. So, but you have to think, work out the plans, work out with the people, talk to the people, empower them with different things, then things will be resolved. And it takes a while to do that. It's not an easy task, I understand, but things can be managed. Connecting with the women and then women leadership. I tell you, women are the best leaders. I have an experience. We have seen in this institution. There is no problem, but yes, connecting with them is the job of a leader. We have done, with every kind, but as among men, women also have different, roles, different thinking, different, perspective. But as a leader, you need to understand everybody's, requirement, everybody's, thinking. Like I can give you an example that we have a facility of child care leave, and certain women employee try to misuse that. Certain, are using it very, very well. So what we did, we told the faculty, okay, friends, you make the rules for yourself. I will obey those. Of course, facility is there and we are bound to give. There's no problem. But it should not harm the interest of the institution. So here, once you empower the faculty that, okay, you take the call on yourself and I will implement the same, then probably nobody will come, and then you can make the rules and they will follow it easily. Another important, political interference. Friends, it is bound to come, especially in a public funded institutions, but things are not that bad, at least in central government or in Delhi University. I have no experience regarding, the state institutions, political interference, because transfers are done by political will, which is not there in Delhi University. We also get phone calls from political people. We get phone calls from local leaders, but you have to handle them politely. But does not mean you have to, surrender or obey or anything. It can be done very easily. I can give you an example. Once what happened, I got a phone call from a president house. He said, sir, I'm working here, and one of our ward has been admitted in your college. You have to admit the another one also. In the first call, I said, okay, fine, let me see what can I do. Very simple. Then, because I knew that he cannot be admitted. The second call came, I said, friend, what is your name? Where are you working? Let me speak to my friend in President House. You will be in trouble now because your job will be at stake. So, you need to handle the things. Similarly, political leadership also, where you can't do much, but, listen, and then you may not act, but you need to work out with them in a polite manner. Similarly, politics within the institution. Friends, the main thing here is you should not involve yourself in that politics. Whether it is left, right, or center, you should work on an academic goal, academic institutional goal, vision. You have nothing to do with that situation. Of course, the sometimes problem come to you, then try to resolve. Try to resolve. We have done here very well in the sense that rather than pushing each one against each other, we have never done that. We try to calm down both the groups, and that has helped. And you need to not differentiate anything. You do as per the rules, and for you everybody is a equal person, everybody has the same capability. And I think if you can take work from each and every group, you can take work from each and every employee, each and every faculty, things can be easily worked out. Thank you, Samantha. This is my point, and if you have anything else, I'm ready to.
So now we enter the last phase of our concluding phase of our discussion today. Professor Anand, would you have any concluding comments to make? Would you agree with Dr. Agarwal when he says that researchers and academic leadership are kind of two different paths? Sir, your mic. Sir, your mic. Your speaker. Yeah, that's right, sir.
Dr. Samantha, thank you very much. I've been quite fascinated when I listen this that you do a job which you like. And as a psychologist, I often, ask myself, do I always get to do things which I like? Can liking also be developed after having experienced something which I didn't like in the initial? So are we talking about the like as possibility of a choice? Because when there is no possibility of a choice, it often happens. And I've seen with many of students and both that many times they begin as a very reluctant person. So likes is something that at times is also discovered in the process of engaging with the work. Like I gave one book, My Experiment, The Truth of Mahatma Gandhi, to my student as an essential assignment. No one liked me, no one liked the book. They said that this is a treacherous and you are killing us by making us read such a thick book. I said, no, please do it. And then believing, many of them coming back and saying, sir, thank you very much. It has actually changed me and I've started liking reading these kinds of books. So this possibility that I may do something which I may not like in the beginning, and most of us can recount and recall and reflect about our own experiences. That times the journey begins as a reluctant traveler. But as you start moving from one milestone to another, maybe out of sheer compulsion of the situations as a no choice situation, then mind also has a tremendous capacities of adapting. There is a habituation of neurons in your mind and you start developing a kind of a liking for that. So that possibility should be kept alive. And as psychologist only was curious and trying to respond to it. The second question is that administration and academics, both going hand in hand. I don't think there are a huge number of examples into the, many universities where they have created two different lines of functioning. So if you have gone into the administration, you are, freed from the all kinds of academics. But in the Indian universities, in our counterpart, this go hand in hand. So you are an academic and you are given an academic administrative responsibility. You are supposed to acquire these kinds of administrative skills, run it efficiently and do it because they are based on certain kind of untested assumptions and the ideas. So there has been very mixed kind of, the reports. The administration requires a different kind of a skill set. And I will give one personal example. When I joined Delhi University as a young faculty, and I was supposed to teach an applied discipline, applied psychology. And I wanted some allocation of fund to get myself trained into certain pedagogy and certain kind of skills. So I went to meet the director at that time. I'll not name that person. And he said, look here, there is no provision in the rule book to do the funding for associate professor. That time it was called readers, training. I said, sir, I don't feel equipped to teach this kind of course and I need training myself. He said, there is no provision for funding and there's no budget. I have come to an academic leader. This rule has already been told to me by the people down your line, which are the clerks. They run the administrators. I have come to an academic leadership. A person who is an academic leader has to create provisions
Yes.
for creating that budget allocation and the grant. The rule has already been told to me by the clerks. Now, if I would have been satisfied by getting the rules, I would not have come to you. So that is the kind of it. And it was visualized that the academicians, if they find that certain rules and regulations, they will always interpret it into the larger interest. And that is where I would like to differentiate it between the principles and the rules. Principles remain the same, uncompromising, the good for all, the wellness of all, pursuing the larger institutional principles. But if the rules which are situational are interfering in the attainment of the larger principles, that rule need to be interpreted. And I feel if there is an academician administrator, an administrator who has a certain academic practices will always interpret the rules, right? And look at our own records that many of the administrators have interpreted rules to suit the requirement of the academics rather than putting it into the iron cast cases and say that this rule can't be changed. So that's why has to be difference between the finance and the audit guy and the academic guy. So that's the one. And third thing, the politics thing, which finally I'll summarize, that the politics is basically the process of ensuring distribution of resources and the power, the decision making. And a good administrator and a good leader keep balancing it out so that it doesn't get cornered by a few members of the institutions, that they only have the access to these resources and to the power of the decision making. As long as a good administrator have a helicopter view and saying it that no, it can be shifted, it can be given to others. And if I'm giving it to the one set of a people to have that resource and have that kind of power to influence, then these are my well-known reasons for doing that. I think I would like to do that. And then only you can say that, well, if you are able to demonstrate the same set of competencies, capabilities, right, abilities and deliveries, then you can also be entitled to have the same kind of resources. And ensuring that is the politics. That is what I would call a politics. Politics is not to me is always a dirty word, but always say that it is a process by which the decision making and the power distribution is carried it out. So leadership is expected to do it as a value-driven politics. And without politics, nothing can move into the institution, but this politics has to be value-driven and as far as known to the others that why he is doing like this. And I have reason to know that why he is doing like this. So these are the 3 points I wish to make by way of my summing it up. Like, for example, liking may not always be the first thing to come. Liking can always happen later, and that possibility has to be kept alive. And otherwise, how we are going to experiment with the new ideas and new thoughts? Are we always going to travel to unknown? How we are going to travel to unknown territories, unknown destination? So I, as a psychologist, would like to keep, both. It can be few things of your liking, but few things is not of your liking, but liking may develop later. Right.
Thank you.
That's the point.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. This is, it's been so nice listening to you and very nice seeing you after very long, sir. Because in India, we have this lockdown and we can't see each other. But at least we have this way of seeing you. Thank you so much, sir. Professor Andreas, you have some concluding comments to make regarding the proceedings today.
Actually, I think this is very, I can keep it short. Live your dream. Live your dream. That's, I think, what you should have, what you always should keep in mind, and communicate your dream. Perhaps I may conclude with one final remark, because leadership means also make decisions and communicate. And perhaps I haven't been mentioning this enough. See, whenever we have whatever an application, give an example. Someone applies for a study place at the MCI. And this, by whatever, for whatever reason, is a very, very important person. And they are being accepted or not, depending on their performance in their admission, okay? And very often, because that was also, is there public influence or political influence? Yes, there has been attempts to influence enrollment and admission decisions. And you know what I'm doing? All those positive, those who make it through the admission process, just receive the normal letter delivered by the postman or now via whatever. That can be done by the secretary, by whoever. I never communicate a positive decision in this respect. That can go the regular way. But when a very important applicant or out of a very important family applies and is not accepted, it's me, call this person, myself. I call them up, typically late in the evening, after work, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, not 5 p.m., not 9 to 5. And you know, and I explain them, you were not good enough in the admission or others were better, and explain them the reasons. And they're so impressed that I take the time and call them. And what I mean is, stand up, do communicate. The more negative a decision or whatever a message is, the more you need to do it yourself. The positive ones, many think leadership meanings being the good cop. You know, being the good cop, I've been doing a favor to you. I'm the one bringing you the nice message. That doesn't need you. But communicate, stand. This is the decision, and it has been coming out, and it complies with our principles. This is why I call you to tell you this, and you're important enough to me to say you that. And I think this is perhaps something which may help you through your career. Why? Because I never afterwards, or after when doing that, I never ever receive something, any complaint, any pressure by whoever. I mean, I wouldn't make compromises anyhow. But why? I mean, by doing that, I receive acceptance. And this is the important thing. Thank you so much for letting me be part of this wonderful panel. And my desire and wish is that all the teachers now are doing their job, doing their best, hopefully liking what they are doing, hopefully inspiring the young generations, are taking the one or other example or principle with them, which may guide them through their job and their career.
Thank you, Professor Andres. Thank you very much. Before I go on to Professor Agarwal for his final comments, I'd like to tell my participants that Ramanujan College is already engaged in doing collaborative work with MCI Innsbruck. So if any one of you, your students, your institution would also want to become a part of this adventure, you're most welcome to get in touch with us, and we will carry forward this work together. To all my participants all over the country who are listening, and I also want to say that those of us who have not been able to see this thing live on YouTube, this will be put back on YouTube for viewing at later points. Dr. Agarwal, final comments from you. You are the principal of a college, and the college has done exceedingly well in the last 1 decade, and it's become one of the most well-known colleges of Delhi University and also of India. What would be your final comments about today's discussion?
Okay, first of all, really thankful to my co-panelists. Very good observation, both by Professor Anand Prakash and Professor Andreas. Actually, I have also learned several things today. Well, the final comment I can say that, basically, it all depends upon situation to situation. There is no definite rules. There are no definite styles. There are no definite, papers in which it is written that you act like Professor Anand Prakash said, that rules has to be interpreted in the interest of the institution. And you all know that we have done in this institution whatever is best in the interest of the institution and interest of our stakeholders. So I think the basic philosophy is very simple. It all depends on situation to situation in any of the academic institution. We can speak of our own. Some people raised a query that is it different in a private and public funded? Yes, my dear, there are differences, but basically, I can relate one example here. When we go to inspect a private institution, things are, very, things are in place. But in a government institution, there is no cohesiveness. Things are not in place. Now, that is one observation, but that does not mean that institution is best and that is worst. No, I'm not saying that. See, it is all, the work, how you take. See, public funded institutions are facing serious crisis because we are not working in a team. We are not working in a cohesiveness. What we feel is that we are there and nobody can stop us. Nobody can do anything. So let us do whatever we can or whatever we want to. So, this is just besides the point that, of course, the good public funded institution is having a good leader who listens to everyone, who interacts with everyone, who work as per the situation, things will be much, much better. And most of our public institutions are suffering because we do not have good leaders. That is the reason I made a comment that sometimes we appoint very good researchers, very good teachers as administrators, but institutions suffer. So we want that institution should not suffer. So let us, I'm concluding with this thing that there is no definite rule, definite formula where we can say this is how it works. But I have an advice for young faculty that they must learn every day. They must be part of the administration for any work which they feel or they like, as Professor Andreas said, that, okay, I want to do this. Even if the leader is not inviting you to do, you just go and tell him that this is my interest. If it is possible, please give me. He may not, but ultimately, when he will understand that you are the best in the institution for this work, he will assign it to you. So with this, once again, thank you very much, everyone from my side, my panelists and my colleague who are conducting, Dr. Samanta, Dr. Lata, and every other colleague who have joined, and all the participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Agarwal. I think we now conclude today's panel discussion. I have this privilege, honor of thanking Professor Anand Prakash for being with us. Sir, you've always been very kind, and your blessings for us and our institution has taken this institution where it has. We have really have no words to thank you for being with us here today. Professor Andreas Altman, thank you very much for being with us. Thank you for your comments. We will have to go back and see this entire recording again to look into some of the very interesting, profound, and often provocative comments and points which have been made about leadership in an academic institution, the requirements, the problems, the challenges which are there. Thank you very much, Professor Andreas Altman. And sir, thank you very much for being with us.